Welcome back to Drew and Brandon Talking Sports on a Saturday evening. Brandon, how's it going?
Good. I'm a little bit under the weather, so I may sound a little sick. But other than that, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say I've been under the weather, but is it allergy season? Like, would it technically define as allergy season right now? I'm not sure. It's February 19th. If you don't know the date, uh, I'm not sure, but I've definitely gone through my fair share of tissues over the past couple days. So, anyways, football season is over. We've spent the past 6 months, give or take, talking about 90% football. So we've made this transition before. We're going to make it again. We typically go from football to basketball. Um, the MLB and MLBPA meeting lasted 15 minutes, apparently. So we'll see what happens with baseball. I'm hoping for, we'll see. I guess it's not looking great right now, but we're going to talk basketball. We're going to go top 10 NBA teams, power rankings, post deadlines. So this is theoretically minus a couple buyouts. This is what we're looking at for teams.
Yeah.
Minus, barring buyouts and injuries, this is what we're looking at. So I'm interested to see what your power rankings are because mine are strictly based off of top 10 teams I would pick to win the NBA Finals. So, unfortunately, you don't just get points for having the best record. So, it is what it is.
I'm doing my list off of just right now the top 10 teams in the NBA. So doesn't mean that the first team that is the team I think is gonna win the championship, but just right now, February 19th, who I think the top 10 teams are, that's my list.
Yeah, the problem is I just don't like power rankings. I mean, I do, but I don't. It's a love hate relationship because, what do you want me to do with the Heat, right? I guess this might be a little bit of a spoiler, but the Heat have the number one record, technically speaking, in the Eastern Conference, but I probably don't have them in my top two most likely teams to win the finals out of the East. It is what it is. Have they played better than a couple teams that I probably have above them? For sure. It's not even a question, but I don't give the Heat much of a chance to win the finals, unfortunately. That's just talent wins in the NBA, and I'm not sure they have enough top tier talent. But anyways, we're gonna talk that. We're gonna talk some skills challenges, All Star games. All that stuff is going down during the All Star break this weekend. I don't know if did you watch the whatever you want to call it, the Rising Stars stuff?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. It's I watched some highlights. I don't know if you saw Scotty Barnes. I don't even know what the challenge is. I was trying to get a hold of what that challenge was.
That challenge was they added to this year was like iconic shots. So like game winners in playoff situations. Like you had Damian Lillard's shot was on there. Ray Allen's shot was on there. Reggie Miller had a shot against the Bulls that was on there. That one I think was
That was
that was
the
that was Magic Johnson against the Celtics. And then they had another one, Charles Barkley from the top of the key. So he just couldn't even make
so
one.
I guess first off, to not have Jordan's shot on there is dumb. I
Yeah,
don't care if
I don't
it's
know what the criteria was, but it looked like it was playoff game winning shot. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised that wasn't on there.
and also I mean, Ray Allen's shot cool, but it's just a corner three. Like it's not like I don't you can call it that if you want, but it's just a corner three. I don't. Um, that was confusing to me. I didn't really understand exactly how it worked. Was it just making the shots in a certain timer? I don't know, but if you look, I watched the winners, which was I'm trying to remember. It was Halliburton and Desmond Bain. They won that
Yeah,
challenge. Bain didn't make a shot all the way up until the logo shot, so Halliburton had to carry the team. Bain finished it off, but anyways, we're gonna talk All Star stuff. We'll start with the power rankings, I guess. If you want to start with the power rankings.
yeah, I'll start. So, like I said, I'm doing my list of the top 10 teams right now, currently. So number one, I'm going with the Suns. They're 48-10, number one record in the league right
Wait,
now.
we're gonna start at number one and not number 10. Okay.
Oh, we're
I mean,
starting. I was okay. Well, then we'll start at number 10. Then I was
well, we
thinking
can
it's
start at
just
number 10.
easier.
We now know you're number one. I'm gonna say it
All
right
right.
now.
Well,
I think that's an awful number one, but
All right. Well, like I said, my list is off of the top 10 teams right now, and I'll talk about them later. But they started 1-3. They've been 47-7 ever since. So it's kind of hard not to put them at number one. But at number 10, I guess I'll start with number 10. So I got to kind of think about this now. I was kind of going from 1 to 10, not 10 to 1. But um, I think I would probably go 10. Let's see. I think see the thing is the problem is with the East, it's so many different teams in the East that you could probably match up anywhere. But I think I'd probably start with the East for my number 10 spot. And I think this is a fringe number 10. But again, I said right now, I think I'd go the Cavs at number 10. Actually, they're number 4 in the East right now. Do I think they can win a championship? No. Can they maybe win a playoff round? Maybe depending on matchup. But I think right now that the way they're playing, I mean, they have 2 All-Stars. I mean, they're a pretty good team if you really think about it. Like in terms of just the young and the depth that they have and the young talent that they have. But I think right now they're probably the number 10 team, power ranking wise. And like I said, I mean, they're 35-23. I mean, they're better than Milwaukee's better. They're better than Milwaukee's record. They're better than the Celtics. They're better than the Nets. Technically, they're better than the Hawks. I mean, those are teams that we thought were going to be 1,000 miles ahead of all these other teams. And Cleveland's technically better than them record wise. So, I have them at number 10.
Yeah, so my number 10 team, I'm going to go with the Boston Celtics. I guess you could argue maybe higher. You could probably argue slightly lower. They've been better as of recent. I like their top end talent, obviously with Tatum and Brown. I would say the Derek White move over the deadline was an okay move. I'm not sure that it's really much different than just having Josh Richardson on this team. And then trading Dennis Schroeder for Daniel Tice is the most Brad Stevens move I've ever seen, and I don't like it. By the way, I don't like Schroeder, but anyways, I like the Celtics. I don't trust them chemistry wise. I don't trust them outside of Tatum Brown. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's some nice pieces on that team, but can I trust them consistently on a game-to-game basis to be a key part of a 7-game series? Not really. But I think they're better than some teams that have better records than them. I think they're better than the Cavs in the East. That's probably all I would give them. I think that's the only team I would have above them that has a better record than them in the East. All the other 5 teams I would have above them. Cavs I would have below them. And the West teams that have a better record that I would say are worse. I would probably have the Celtics above the Mavs right now. I think you could debate with the Jazz, but I would have the Suns.
I don't know about that. I think the Jazz and Mavericks are much better teams than the Celtics.
I'm not willing to say much better.
I think so. I would say so, to be honest.
I think the Celtics have played pretty well recently, and there was a time in which the Celtics were looking like they were going to miss the play-in, or maybe not miss the play-in, but be in the play-in as a 9 or 10 seed, pretty much where the Hawks are right now. And they've been able to go 9-1 in their last 10, and they've looked insanely good. Not perfect, but they've looked very well. They've looked very good, and they're one of the hottest teams in the league right now. So that's why I've slid them into my top 10. So that's why. But yeah, I would have the Grizzlies, Warriors, and Suns at the very least above the Celtics, potentially. And I mean, right now I'm putting the Celtics above the Jazz and Mavericks. I still think it's close, but because they're 9-1 in their last 10 and they've looked pretty good, I'll give them the 10 slot. Maybe it's because I'm, from Massachusetts too, but.
All right. So that's your 10. My number 9. I'm gonna go. Well, the thing is, I have to clarify this. So there's gonna be a team that's not gonna be on my list, which is going to it's gonna be surprising. It's gonna be you're probably gonna say that my list is probably just not valid. But
if it's
I'm just gonna say
is it the Grizzlies?
No. I'm gonna say it right now because again, my list is off of right now the way that teams are playing.
The Nets.
So I'm putting on the Nets. I'm not going to be in my top 10. Right now they're not going to be in my top 10. Now, obviously, when everyone's healthy again, when they're all playing together for a championship type list, obviously they're going to be on that list. But right now they're 2-8 their last 10 games, and one of those games that they won, they were down 30 points to the Knicks, and Cam Thomas obviously led them back, and the Knicks choked that game. So. Right now, they're not in my top 10, but again, they're probably, whatever, they're 11, 12, whatever they are, but That's a team that I'm not going to say. But for number nine, I'm probably sticking with the East to be honest. I don't even know where to go honestly. If it's East or West, I think maybe I'll go West. I think I was between Denver or Dallas. Between teams in the West, I'll probably go Dallas only because I kind of like Denver a little bit better. Obviously, Dallas traded Porzingis at the deadline to the Wizards. They really didn't get anything back. Porzingis is that trade that they did with the Knicks to get him a couple years ago. It obviously didn't work out the way they wanted it to, but he really wasn't that bad this year. He stayed, relatively healthy this year. I think it was giving them 18 points, 8 rebounds, 9 rebounds, playing pretty good defense for them. So I like to just get absolutely zero for him. I know his contract isn't great, but I don't know. I feel like they could have got maybe something better. It's really just Luka and no one else on that team. So we'll see what happens when the playoffs come. But right now, they're 7-3 in their last 10 games. They've been playing pretty well, but losing Porzingis, I think, is actually going to hurt them more than it's going to help them. For the second half of this season. But I have them at number 9 right now.
Okay. Well, I do have the Nets in my top 10. Like I said, and again, there's going to be some list. There's going to be at least one team on this list that is going to be very surprising. And you're going to say, why is this team on this list? This is arguably a bottom 10 team in the league. And I'm going to tell you, that's how the NBA is. And I'll tell you when I tell you. My number 9 team is, there's a couple teams I could go. I'm going to go, I'm going to go with the Chicago Bulls. And listen, I get it. They're the 2 seed. Record is tied for the 1 seed right now. DeMar is arguably playing like the MVP of the league. I'm just going to tell you right now, I give this team little chance to actually win the NBA Finals. Again, when it comes down to when we get to the conference, finals and the conference semifinals, particularly the conference finals, you need top tier talent. And is DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, is that a duo that instills fear into me if I'm Giannis and Holiday and Middleton, considering I just went on to win the finals last year? No, it does not. This is not a team that would scare me at all. I think they're a really good story. I think they're on a good trajectory to get back to where they have historically, and by historically I mean really just with Michael Jordan, where they've been, and maybe Derrick Rose for a couple years. I think they're on a good trajectory, but do I actually give them much of a shot to get to the finals? No. I think teams I would have them losing to, I would have them losing to the Heat in the East. I'd have them losing to the 76ers in the East. I would have them losing to the Bucks in the East. And I'm not going to say I would have them losing to the Nets in the East, but I would give the Nets a greater chance to win the finals in the East. But on average, I would give the Bulls a better chance to get further, right? I think the Nets have a lower floor but a higher ceiling, and I think the Bulls are pretty set in that they're going to win a round, probably. Are they going to win 2 or 3? I'm not too sure. So I'm going to put the Bulls at 9. It's a little bit low. I like this team, trust me, I do, but again, top tier talent wins in the NBA. Try to give me more than a couple teams that have really won a finals, barring major league injuries, without a top 5 player. There really isn't many. So
No, we're doing two different lists. So for the way that your list is going, the Bulls would be lower than it would be on my list, obviously, because mine's are right now. But even so, I think nine's maybe a little bit too low. Do I think they could win a championship? Probably not. But the way the East is constructed this year, I think really now look, you have the Nets, Sixers, and Bucks who at one all healthy and everyone playing are the top 3 teams for sure. But again, the Nets, you don't know. KD's obviously injured right now. Who knows if he stays healthy? Kyrie can't play home games as of right now. Simmons hasn't played yet. Harden's injured, plus overweight, plus out of shape. And then the Bucks are probably the most consistent team. But again, right now they're the number 5 seed. So I think they're maybe a little bit higher than 9. Again, Levine's injured right now. Lonzo's injured right now. So it's really just DeMar. But I guess we'll see. I think we're on the same page that they won't win a championship. But my number 8 team, and again, mine's right now. I'm gonna go with Denver, the Nuggets. Again, I was deciding between Mavericks or them for the 9. I'm going with Denver for 8. I just like them a little bit better than the Mavericks right now. Again, Jokic. I mean, I don't know if people people kind of talk about it, but like he probably should be the MVP right now. Everyone's saying Embiid. There was Curry earlier in the season. Giannis has even gotten some attention, but it really is Jokic. I think he's 26, 14, and 8 right now, with basically no one. Jamal Murray still isn't back yet. There's probably
Well,
the second best player is Aaron Gordon, I would say, which is not saying much in the West. And considering the fact that they're the 6th seed and only 3 games out of the 4 seed, I mean, it's pretty impressive, in my opinion. But for right now, I would have him as my eighth, team overall. Which again, that's not bad. Once you get Jamal back, once you get a couple guys back, that's a team that can maybe make a run. It's a tough West, but I think they can maybe make a run at least the Western Conference, depending on who falls to them in the seeding.
yeah, I like the Nuggets. I would say again, I would argue that the impressive stats are helped out by the fact that he has nobody on his team. Like, if you do put a fully healthy team around Jokic, Murray, MPJ, I think his stats probably get worse. Like, maybe his
I
assists
mean,
go up,
to
but
be fair,
his
they were
rebounds.
they were similar to this last year though, and those guys were there. So
I know, but still, that's what I would argue at least. Anyways, I mean, for my MVP, I'll keep it quick, but if the Nuggets can get into the top four seed, like you said, they're only 3 games back. Yeah, I could see the argument. Right now, I still go Embiid. He's very similar to Jokic right now, but their team is a top 3 seed, and I mean, Jokic's team has a lot of injuries, but Embiid's team has dealt with a lot. Just in the fact that they're the 3 seed right now was honestly surprising to me.
but
Um,
to be fair, it is an easier conference. I mean,
it's an easier
they have
conference, but
they have the
like
same amount. The Sixers have 2 more wins, and they're the 3 seed. The Nuggets are the 6th seed. You know,
it's an easier conference, but I mean, how much easier? I'm not really willing to say it's. I think the East is actually pretty good. I mean, I know I put the Bulls at 9, but if we're talking strictly regular season teams, I mean the Bulls are a top again. The record is what it is. I mean they're a top 4 team, right? Or a top 5 team record wise,
no, I
and
mean the East is better than it's been the past couple years, but I mean, just look if you look at the top teams in the West. I mean, it's just they're just way better than the top teams in the East. Again, now the Nets haven't been healthy. The Sixers have, they've been dealing with their stuff too. But it's just I feel like the West maybe it's more top heavy, and the East is a little bit more heavy in the middle, I guess you could say. But the tougher conference, in my opinion, is still the West over the East.
I would agree, but I think it is very close. Like to me, I mean, if we're comparing 7 seeds, I like the Raptors over the Timberwolves, or I think it's at least very close, right? And I think prior to the past couple years, it was like the 7 seed in the East was like the 13 seed in the West, and now I think it's relatively even, right? Anyways, I'm at my number 8 team now, right? Correct. I'm not wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Okay. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go the East. I'm gonna go with the Miami Heat. It is slightly controversial. They're the 1 seed right now. They've been playing some insanely good basketball, right? But again, it's the same argument. There are some teams that are lower on these standings that, when we get to the Eastern Conference Finals, we've seen time and time again, top 5 talent wins. I think it's a well-rounded team. I think it's a well-coached team. I think it's a historically very consistent organization, and I trust them to win a round, probably 2, unless they get an unlucky second-round matchup. But there are teams in the East that I just, at the end of the day, when we get to the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm most likely 90% chance going to pick them over the Heat. So
So who is it at number 8 again?
the Heat.
Heat. Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, like you said, for championship wise, I mean, it probably makes sense. I mean, they're not as good as they were their finals run. What 2 years ago that was now. So I'd probably agree with that for championship wise. But I was actually going over. I realized I made a mistake. I thought I added an extra team to my list, so I'm gonna bump the Cavs out. I'll put the Mavs at 10, and then the Nuggets at 9. So my 8 team was going to be the team I was. It should have been my 7 team, but it's going to be who's it going to be? I'm actually going to put right now. I'm going to put Milwaukee is my number, 8 team, I guess it is, or 7 team, whatever it is. I think 8. Again, right now, the way they're playing, obviously, again, championship wise, Giannis, again, they're my pick for the finals, anyways. And I still feel confident about that. You're the Nets, I had the Bucks. I feel like I guess right now the Bucks you're probably favor the Bucks a little bit just because the injuries status, whatever, Simmons status, everything like that. But again, I'm putting the Bucks there. Really, no, they could be higher on my list for sure, but I think there's other teams, especially in the West. Those top 3 teams in the West. It's just hard to argue with those teams not being, potentially your 1, 2, 3 in a power ranking setting. So it's hard to move up. If anything, maybe a spot or two, but like I said, I'm bumping those 2 teams, Nuggets and Mavs, down, and then putting the Bucks there. So they'll be my 8 seed. The Bucks will.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. But at the same time, I mean, listen, we can play this like game of giving teams a power ranking on a week to week basis in the NBA, or we can just be real and say the Bucks might not be playing as well as we maybe thought going into the year, whether it be injuries or just a little bit of complacency because it's an 82 game regular season. I mean, we saw that from LeBron's teams like every single year. I mean, the Cavs were the 4 seed a lot of years, and there was never a year in which I think there was much doubt as to who's coming out of the East. So I'm not gonna play this game with our viewers. I'm just gonna tell you how it is. I want to tell you the teams that I think actually will make the finals at the end of the day when it's all said and done. So with that being said, my number 10, 9, 8, 7. My number 6 team, I'm going with a team out of the West. It's a team that I really like, and I think this player has been criminally underrated, and I guess I'm gonna probably underrate him again, even though I do really like him. I'm going with the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies are a really good team, and they're 3rd in the West, and that means a lot, honestly. Even though it is a regular season, this team is a team that some people might not have had in the playoffs going into this year. Ja has emerged as the guy. He's emerged to me as a guy that can one day for sure be a number 1 on a championship team. Is it going to happen? I don't know, but I think he can be that number 1 guy that every single year you're looking at him as a perennial, gonna get you to the second round and you go from there type of player. I think on the leaderboards of top players under 25, I don't think it's egregious to have him at number 1. I think right now most people would have him between 1 or 2, probably, right?
I don't think people would have him at 1. I think Luka would be at 1.
No, but I think he's 1 or 2.
Well, I'm saying I don't think he's 1 or 2. I think he's, if anything, 2.
Okay.
I think Luka is a guaranteed number 1 by just about anyone. At least 9 out of 10 people.
Maybe. I think Ja's underrated though. I mean, I honestly think
I think he is too.
I
But
think he should be number 1 in 3 out of 10, for at least. Honestly, I think there should be some concerns about Luka. I think Ja is a much more high motor player. I think he's a much more athletic player. Now, I would still probably take Luka number 1 over Ja, but I think it is very close, and I think he probably used to be 3, and Tatum was probably 2. I think you can make the argument he's leapfrogged Tatum. I think you probably would have had him over Tatum to begin with, anyways. Maybe not.
um, not until this year because he did take a huge step this year. I mean, like he wasn't doing this last year. While Tatum at least was showing signs of it and at least had kind of done it. But yeah, Ja has definitely overtaken him in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Ja's proven all the Zion enjoyers wrong. Zion is now a guy that has in national media been brought up as potentially a bust, which what a swing. I mean, we went from the best player since LeBron James, maybe Anthony Davis, like prospect wise, to a bust. And Ja throughout all this time has been so consistent. In his first year, he was really consistent when Zion wasn't and got hate for it. He didn't really get the recognition he deserved. He's been consistent ever since and took a huge leap this year in terms of just being a better player. And I think he's still getting hate, and I'm arguably hating on him right now by putting this team at number 6. 10, 9, 8. Yeah, number 6. But again, I think this team is I think it's the Nuggets of a couple years ago where they're a young team, they're playing really well. I think they're a year or two ahead. I think they're going to be here eventually, but I think the Suns are a really strong team still. How strong and how long are they going to be strong for? Probably not too much longer, which is why, again, I think the Grizzlies have a better chance in the next couple of years, right, as of compared to right now. I think the Warriors are still a very good team. And then I still think there are some teams. This is the third highest team I have in the West. So I only have the Warriors and Grizzlies, or sorry, Warriors and Suns ahead of them in the West. But I still think there are some teams in the West that could cause some potential nightmares. Like if they get the Nuggets in the first round, that's a problematic matchup in the first round.
Yeah.
I don't know who I go with. I'd have to think about it, but anyways, yeah, I have the Grizzlies at 6.
Yeah, no, I mean, going back on the Luka Ja thing, I mean, like Luka's averaging 27, 9, and 9 this year. And I mean, people have kind of been saying it's almost somewhat not even what they were really expecting this year, which is crazy that like 27, 9, and 9 is somewhat of like a down year technically, when because the expectation is like 30, 10, and 10 most likely. So it's like I understand what you're saying. You're not saying he probably is the number one. You probably still go with Luka, but yeah, I mean, I think Luka is just like I think he's just ridiculous. I think that team has kind of just screwed him over with the player development slash just bringing people in and the people around him. Because you could literally argue the second best player is Jalen Brunson. I mean, that's just not you can't. It's hard to win one playoff series with Jalen Brunson being your second best player. And I like Jalen Brunson, but it's the NBA. You just can't do that to someone who's that good.
Let me. I like Luka. I think he's maybe slightly overrated. Let me try to play devil's advocate just a little bit and go a little bit overboard. But I will say this: I could argue he has not reached expectations the past 2 years. And when I say that, before this year, we both had him as our MVP. This year, I want to say you picked him again as MVP. I went with, I think I went with Steph Curry. So he's a guy that should be an MVP or darn close to it. And it's not like there's any voter fatigue around Luka. I think voters want to have a narrative like Luka. I think they would be fine with that. I don't think there's any voter fatigue. So I'm not going to say he hasn't reached expectations, but I think there's an argument to be made that he's slightly underachieved. And I think I could also argue, if I'm going to compare this to football, I could say Ja reminds me of Joe Burrow and Luka reminds me of Herbert. Herbert and Luka are the insanely talented guys. They are going to put stats up on the stat sheet no matter what. As long as they're on the field / court, they're going to be putting up crazy numbers and be in the MVP conversations. Ja Morant and Joe Burrow, they may not shock you if you just look at the stats. On a night-to-night basis, they're impressive athletically, but they may not be all-time impressive. But they've transformed to arguably just not very good organizations. And to me, even though the Grizzlies have done well without Ja this year, I still feel that impact that Ja has had on the locker room and the culture of the Grizzlies. I'm not sure. Again, that's not tangible. That's an intangible thing. But I feel like I personally feel it, which is why I give Ja. Again, I'm not going to take him over Luka right now, but if this continues, and let's say Ja gets to the second or third round and Luka is a first round elimination and it doesn't look pretty and Luka's complaining to the refs every 2 possessions and he's pouting and in the offseason his camp wants to spread rumors about potentially him demanding a trade out of Memphis unless X and Y and Z happens, then I may get to the point where I decide I want Ja over Luka.
No, I think that's fair. Like Ja is definitely a more quiet guy, I guess that you could say, than Luka. Even though they're both quiet, but like in terms of just on the court stuff, off the court stuff. I mean, I'd still take Luka. Just the pure talent, as long as you can surround them with just better role players. I think he's almost similar to a LeBron, where like he doesn't look if he has the AD, if he has the Kyrie, it helps obviously, but you can surround him with like a 2018 Cavs team or the Cavs teams from the LeBron's first stint. Guys who are like good role players and solid players and know what they have to do and do what they have to do. But they're not star players. And I think you can at least get a couple rounds in terms of the playoffs, maybe not championship with that type of team, but you could for sure get a couple rounds in. And again, he's only 20. I think he's 22 years old, Luka is. So I think he's going to get better over the next couple of years, but it's going to be an interesting debate between Luka or Ja. Again, right now I would say the consensus is still Luka, but if Ja gets to a Western Conference Finals, which is for sure possible, I think that may at least be more of a conversation than going into next year. I think there'd be a huge question mark between those two. But we'll have to see what happens. Because I do think the Grizzlies have a chance at that. The Mavs probably don't. They may win a series, but that'll probably be it. But for my number seven team. I'm going with the Jazz. Not much to say here. It's the Jazz. It's just, I mean, they're a good team. They're a good regular season team. They don't really do anything in the playoffs. Gobert is almost unplayable in the fourth quarter against certain teams and certain times. That's going to hurt them in the playoffs like it does every year. Mitchell's a really good player, but he's like a step below what like he's almost similar. He's like it's a little bit bigger version of Ja, but he's a step below him where he can do the things that Ja can do, but at least this year, the way that Jaws play this year, he just can't do that stuff. He can't lead his team like that because the Jazz are a better team than the Grizzlies as a roster, and they have 5 less wins. And Ja has been injured for 14 games, so it is a little bit telling about Mitchell and the Jazz. But for right now, the way they're playing, I put them at 7. But again, when it comes to the playoffs, they may win a first round, but that's probably it.
Yeah. I can see that. So right now I'm on my 10, 9, 8, 7. So I technically said the Grizzlies are my 6th team. I miscounted because I'm dumb. So this is now my 6th team. So just to recap, my 10 team is Celtics, 9 Bulls, 8 Heat, 7 Grizzlies. This is my number 6 team. I'm gonna go with the LA Lakers, and this is the shock team. This is the team that has played like a bottom team in the NBA. But listen, I'm just telling you that in my opinion, they are the 6th most likely to win an NBA Finals. The Grizzlies are a better team, and if they're in a playoff series and you're making me pick, I'm going to go with the Grizzlies. And you might say, why did you have the Lakers above the Grizzlies? Well, I just think that on the 1% or 2% chance that Anthony Davis recovers and gets healthy, LeBron finally decides to not, be LeBron and be like, 20. I don't know. I don't even know, but if it works out on the 1% chance, I give that a better chance than the Grizzlies actually going on a longer run than a couple rounds. Again, if it works out, LeBron is the best player in the league and AD is the 5th or 6th, and they can find a way to get the role players to not be too awful. Am I picking it? No, but I'm giving them the number 6 spot purely because there's a 1% chance I give them that everything clicks. AD gets healthy. LeBron decides to not play his God complex thing and decides to, for once, not be a diva. And if it works out, then I give them a good shot. So that's why they're my number 6.
Yeah, I was wondering what team you were going to choose from when you said a bottom team. I thought it was probably going to be the Lakers, but I wasn't sure. But I mean, I personally don't agree with it. Championship wise, maybe if you want to put them at 10, maybe, but even then, I'd say no. As someone who, like obviously I'm a Westbrook fan, so I do watch their games and at least stay somewhat up to date. They're just not a good team. They're just not, and they made 0 additions at the trade deadline. Now they'll do buyout stuff, but like, who are you really getting at a buyout situation that's going to make such a difference on this team? Now, AD's injured again. He's out at least a month. What are the odds he can stay healthy? And if he does, he's been pretty productive when he stayed healthy, but at the same time, LeBron's honestly playing. He's having one of the best years of his career. That's not even an understatement. He's averaging 29 points per game. If their team had a better record, he'd probably be leading MVP votes. Just the way he's playing, I think he has 23 straight games of 25 plus points. I mean, that's ridiculous for someone who's 37, who's really like 40 years old based on all of his playoff stuff. But this team, I don't even think they can maybe win around in the playoffs if they're all healthy and depending on the matchup. But I could tell you, even if they play the Grizzlies in the first round and AD's back, I honestly would pick the Grizzlies. I think the Grizzlies are a better team than the Lakers. Now, again, maybe that changes. Maybe AD is a top 5 player again, but it's a lot. It's a lot of questions on one side, and there's not a lot of questions on the other side. And usually, the one with 0 questions is the better way to go. But I think that is a reach, to be honest.
Well, I told you. I mean, we agree, though. I told you I'm also picking the Grizzlies in a matchup. I just told you the reason I'm giving the number 6 slot is, listen, if somebody came back from the future and told me, who do you think, and told me the Grizzlies won the NBA Finals or told me the Lakers won the NBA Finals and they told me which one's more believable, I'm going with the Lakers. I'm sorry. I just think it is what it is. Now, if you told me the Grizzlies got to the second round or the Lakers got to the second round, I would say the Grizzlies are more likely to. But I think the further you get, listen, it's the same as argument I said with a lot of these teams. I think Lakers have a higher floor, way lower ceiling, and the Grizzlies have a way higher floor and probably maybe not a way lower ceiling, but it's lower in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I just from like watching their games and everything, they're just
And
not a
also
good team. It's
and
just
also
it's really simple as that.
I think it's egregious to say LeBron's having one of the best seasons of his career. I honestly think it's an insult to LeBron to say this is one of the best years of his career. Because I think there are
I
so
mean,
many times when he was younger and maybe just in a better basketball mental state to where he took probably worse teams, maybe not chemistry-wise, but definitely talent-wise, and took them to a better seeding and took them all the way to the finals and got them pretty much as far as anybody could reasonably expect a player like him to get a team. I think, listen, he's not having a bad year, but his mind's not fully there. And when you're the leader of a team, especially when you're a guy like LeBron, I know football and basketball are different sports, but we see how impactful the leadership and mentality of your best player is on a culture, especially when it's a guy who's pretty much either the GOAT or the second greatest player of all time. And LeBron is undoubtedly the best player of the 21st century. It's not even close. And if he's checked out, what do you expect Russell Westbrook to do? Do you expect the whole team minus LeBron to be dialed in for the Lakers season? I mean, AD can't even get dialed in more than 30 games in a year, and he needs a 3-month break in order to get dialed in. Russell Westbrook, I think it's so important for LeBron to be dialed in for this team. And if he's checked out, all these 35-year-old guys who are really only in it to win a ring, they're not dialed in for the regular season. I think a lot of it honestly does fall on LeBron because this was your team you built. You're supposed to be the one that's leading this team, and to blame other people essentially for why you're not where you are, I think is a little bit egregious. And statistically, he's having a great year, and I think athletically, he is still very close to what he's been. But I do think a good amount of blame he should take for this Lakers season.
Look, I can't disagree with the him building this team, so it is his team. That is 1,000%. He did build this team, but again, he wasn't supposed to be. He's taking 3 more shots than he did last year, and it's because AD's been injured. If AD was healthy, like they were hoping he was, then it was supposed to be really, AD's the number one guy with LeBron as the second guy for the regular season, or as that's the way they would phrase it, and that's the way they would make it look. Obviously, LeBron would be the number one, but he'd be taking a backseat role. It'd be kind of more passing, more playing through the flow of the game. He's playing 37 minutes a game, which is up 4 minutes from last year. So he wasn't supposed to be playing this much. He wasn't supposed to be scoring this many points, taking as many shots. So that's kind of the reason why I'm saying it. Now, in terms of him being younger and bringing teams maybe with less talent to bet more, better heights. One, he was in the East where that's when the East was worse. I mean, your best team was the Raptors when it was DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. That's not saying anything at all. So he can be the 4 seed, he can be the 3 seed. But the Hawks with Kyle Korver and Paul Millsap and all those teams, those are not true number 1 seeds. Those are teams you're not afraid of. He easily swept those teams. He easily beat those teams with less talent or even similar talent. So, I look, is it one of his greatest seasons? No, obviously his Heat years, those were honestly probably his greatest seasons were with the Heat. But for him to average 29 points at 37 years old, with all the stuff that's been going on this team, he's been injured too, all the other injuries on this team. I think it is pretty impressive for him what he's doing on the court. Now, if you want to look at the roster, the chemistry, the team building, all that, yeah, you could blame him. I won't argue with that. I won't stop you from that. But again, if their team had a plus 500 record and they were the 5 seed in the West, he'd probably be number 1 in MVP. To be honest, I think he would.
I think you could potentially argue that, but I would also say if they were plus 500 in the same spot as like the Mavericks right now, that probably means AD has a larger role. And I think, honestly, you can make an argument, the better this team is, the worse LeBron's numbers get. And I think that's an argument you can make pretty much across the NBA. The better a team, the less impressive one individual, person's numbers are. Because, barring 2013 LeBron, the best teams LeBron has had statistically, he's really not as great, even though he's arguably being a better player in those years. Yeah, but I mean, I can see the argument for the East thing. I do see that. I would just say, and again, this isn't really. I'm getting too off topic, so I'll reel it in. But real quick, last thing: if LeBron did have the mentality of a Tom Brady, even like an MJ, I think it would. He would so undoubtedly be the greatest player ever in basketball and probably the greatest athlete ever. And I do think when we look back on his career, if he doesn't win another ring, and he is essentially number 2 to Jordan all time, which I think that would be the consensus, not vast majority, but I think that would be the majority is Jordan GOAT over LeBron. When we say what could LeBron have done differently, I don't think there's much of anything he could have done differently on the court. We'd be looking exclusively off the court and saying this is what you would have had to done differently, LeBron. I'm sorry, but when you take an interview with the media or whatever after a game, and the only words that come out of your mouth are like I and me, and no we's and no team. It's not like it's something small, and you may laugh at it if you're watching this podcast, but I promise you that has a big deal. It is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back to the power rankings, like you said. Just try not to spend too much time on that. But yeah, I mean, we kind of agreed on some stuff, disagreed on other stuff. But that was your number 6 team. My number 6 team. I'm going with the Sixers. Again, right now, you just traded for Harden. You lose Curry. You lose Simmons. Again, Embiid's obviously number 1, number 2 in MVP, whatever it is. But again, just right now, I think they probably would be higher. But again, number 6, I think that it's just hard to compete with the teams in the West, to be honest. So I think their only competition is probably the teams in the East, which would be the Bulls and the Heat. And I think it was kind of between the Heat or the Sixers, but I just put them at 6. They could easily be 5 or 4 in my opinion, but I had them at 6.
Yeah, my number 6 team is going to be the Brooklyn Nets. I think my 6, 5, 4 teams are going to be pretty close, but I'm going to go with the Nets at 6. There's too many question marks for me to put them above the Sixers. Even though the Sixers have a lot of question marks too. Harden's a question mark. Embiid is still a question mark. I don't care what anybody says. He still has an injury history. He still hasn't been the most consistent player in the world. He's still pretty consistent, but I'm not going to say it's like a huge question mark, but it's still a question mark. But the Nets have bigger question marks. I mean, Simmons is still a question mark. I don't know if he's going to be ready to go this season. Seriously. I mean, it's not like he has like physical injury problems. It's still mental. He should be able to get on the court, but if he doesn't have a good start to his career in Brooklyn, I don't know what we're looking at. I mean, I still think that's a question mark. Obviously, Kyrie is a question mark, unless New York changes their policy with the vaccine and the mandate or whatever. He's probably only playing away games, and I mean, if they have a series, let's say they match up with Toronto in the first round, or the second round, or whatever, Kyrie's not playing. He's just not playing any of those games. Yeah. So I think they have a lot of question marks. And KD is still a question mark. On the court, he's typically good. But again, he's a guy that when he's not checked in, he's just not checked in. I don't know. It is what it is. And I think he's a little bit of a diva still. So I think this team has a lot of question marks. I still give them a good shot to win the NBA Finals, which is why they're my 6th team here. But they've got a lot of question marks. And so, yeah, I picked them as my NBA Finals pick. Clearly, right now, I have them as my 6th favorite. But I still, I'm not mad at my pick. I'm still okay with my pick of Brooklyn Nets. And if you wanted me to change off it or stick, I would probably just stick with it. Just because I already went with them, and I don't love the 1 and 2 teams enough to justify the switch and admit I was completely wrong about the Nets. But, on this list, it's too hard for me to put them above 6.
Very quickly, do you like this pick better after the trade deadline or before the trade deadline?
They're my number 5. I don't know why I keep miscounting. It's 10 Celtics, 9 Bulls, 8 Grizzlies, or 8 Heat, 7. I'll put it in the description, so you'll be able to check and keep up with it. But yeah, what was the question? Sorry.
trying to do it quickly. Do you like your Nets pick as finals, whatever, getting to the finals, champs, whatever, after the trade deadline or before the trade deadline? Which one do you like better?
I mean, I think the fit. Listen, I mean, this is kind of what the general consensus is. The fit is better, but the high end talent is worse. I mean, Harden's a better player. I honestly think with Harden on the Nets, I might have them slightly higher than a 6. I like. I think Simmons theoretically should increase the floor of the Nets and maybe very, very slightly lessen the ceiling. Because I do think, again, I would give this literally a 0.2% chance to work out. But if Kyrie gets the vaccine or whatever and he's fully committed and makes sacrifices, if Harden decides, you know what, I'm in it till it's over with the Nets, and KD decides that as well, I think they had potential to be one of the best trios of all time, if not maybe the best trio of all time, and have a pretty historic season. Again, now I only would have given that a 0.2% chance, 1% chance, or whatever you want to call it. I probably say I like the team more after the deadline because I think fit is important, and there's no completely dominant team right now that you theoretically would need the theoretical highest ceiling possible. So I think I'll like it more after the deadline, but to be honest, it doesn't really move the needle for me with either the Sixers or the Nets. I still think they both have a bunch of question marks, and I'm not sure fit-wise it's really as big of a adjustment or fix as people want to say for either team.
Yeah, I would if it was me, we never actually talked about the Harden Simmons deal, but I like the Nets better after the deal than the Sixers. I think the Sixers got the worst of that deal. I think the Nets got a great deal on that. And for championship wise, I guess maybe this year you would give the nod to the Sixers, maybe just because Harden is better than Simmons, and technically he is playing. Simmons isn't, but for the future and again maybe even for this year, I still would like the Nets because just I think the fit, like you said, the fit's way better. Harden was just a mess in New York.
Brooklyn, I think you mean.
Well, it isn't technically New York, but yes, Brooklyn. But yeah, whatever. We'll leave it at that. But for my number 5 team,
Well,
I'm
one thing I actually wanted to real quick. Are you willing to admit that you were wrong about trading Ben Simmons before
no,
now?
because like I just said, I think look, they got James Harden in the deal, which yeah, you got a top 10 player and at his really at his best in his right now current state top 5, which he probably will never reach that again, but he already opted into next year, so it's 48 million for next year, but if you don't win a championship this year or next year, which it's going to be harder next year because the Nets will be healthy. Kyrie, the mandate's either gone or he gets the vaccine, so he'll be fully there. KD will be there, obviously. The
If
Bucks
he
will be
doesn't
there. Other teams
retire.
will be there. I don't think he's gonna retire, but if they don't win it this year, it's gonna be a lot harder next year. And then what do? Do you sign him to a contract extension where it's 50+ million for 4+ years, whatever it is, and your team's probably worse because of that? It's probably worse already. You already had to give up Seth Curry, so I I look, you got Harden, and that's what they wanted, but I just don't know if that really is the right move. In terms of like, can you actually win a championship with Harden and Embiid? It looks great on paper, but it's different from being on paper and being on the court with the reality that it is right now. Harden is just not the same player that he was 3 years ago. He just isn't. He's still a really good player and still a top 10 player potentially, but he's just not that same type of player. So if they don't win a championship this year, I'm not going to say it wasn't worth it, but it was almost similar to our Stafford golf comparison when I said, you were talking about like, is it really worth it? Like, I like this is kind of similar to that. Like, to me, I don't think it was worth it to get Harden. I think that maybe they could have kept Simmons, maybe they could have traded him for someone else. I don't know who that would have been, but I don't know if Harden was the correct player they should have gotten.
Let me ask you this, and I'll keep it quick. You don't have to give a long answer on this. These are your only two options, so if you can either go back to the offseason and trade Simmons for, we'll say, Healed, Bagley, and the 14th pick in next year's draft, aka the one upcoming, or this current trade. Which one are you taking?
Well, I mean, I have the better chance at a championship with Harden between those two trades, but at the same time, I wouldn't feel confident in the Harden trade. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't like that fit with my team, and even though I have a better chance, I don't know how much better of a chance it would be.
I would agree
That's the
that
way
the,
I'd
the
put it.
first trade allows for less of a chance for just the team to completely implode. But I still take the Harden trade. No doubt about it in my time. 10 times out of 10, I'm taking the Harden trade. Um, anyways, I'll move on. I now am on my number 4 team, I
Well,
believe.
I never said
Or,
my fifth team,
okay,
but
okay, sorry. Yeah, okay, go.
I'll just keep it quick. We'll try to get through these last couple teams quicker, but I'm going with the Heat number 5. Again, they were between 5 and 6 for them Sixers. It's a flip flop. They're number 5. It's not nothing really much else to say.
Yeah, so this is my number 4 team. I'm going to go with the 76ers. Again, I like, to me, it's strictly 76ers over Nets because I think they have slightly less question marks, although I do think these are two of the teams with the most question marks in the league, so it's really not saying much. That's all I really have to say.
Yeah, my number 4 team again, sticking with the East. The last team in the East I'll pick the Bulls. I do really like this Bulls team, to be honest. DeRozan has definitely played like way different than I ever thought he was ever going to play with this team. Again, Levine's injured, Ball's injured, Patrick Williams was injured at the beginning of the year. So like when they all get healthy, and this may be a championship kind of talk, but I'm not saying they'll win a championship or even get to a championship, but if the East isn't as fully powerful and healthy that as it should be, I mean, this team could definitely make a run. Depending if they don't have to, if it's just really the Bucks that are like the only healthy team, if they don't have to face them until the Eastern Conference Finals, like I could easily see this team getting to the Eastern Conference Finals and at least giving the Bucks somewhat of a run, if not winning that series. Like I really do like this team. And again, when they're fully healthy, they have the good defense and they have the offense. But regular season right now, I have them at number 4.
Yeah, I guess I'll try to keep it quick. And my thing about the Bulls there is, and the reason I kind of have these takes that I have is probably because I've been a Celtics fan and I've kind of seen what maybe some teams haven't. You can have literally the most likable player and most likable team in the league and is pretty talented, but at the end of the day, a ceiling is a ceiling, and I'm not sure the Bulls' ceiling is high enough to get past the Eastern Conference Finals, and I don't see a trajectory for them to easily transform this current iteration into a team that does have the chance to win a championship. So that's why I have the Bulls as low as I do, and you have the Bulls as high as you do. I've seen it with the Celtics. I mean, honestly, this Bulls team kind of reminds me as a probably slightly better version of that IT Celtics. So
I mean, I would say much better, to be honest.
I'm not willing to say much better right now. I mean, I'm willing to say, listen, I think DeRozan is on as at an incredible high right now, and I expect that to fall off in the next couple of years. I think you could argue Levine is kind of like maybe an older Tatum back in the day, an older and better Tatum maybe. I
I mean,
think
we're
they
just
have,
talking
I think
about
they
we're
are
just
better,
talking about
but
this year, though. We're just talking about this year. I'm not talking about
no,
the
I
next
know,
couple
but
years.
well, but that's why I have them as low as I do, and I really don't think. Listen, again, you can have the most likable team with a lot of likable characters, but their ceiling's not high enough this year, in my opinion, and it's not high enough long term. So if I'm a Bulls fan, while I would take this over being what I have been, don't get your hopes up. That's all I'm gonna say. Um, and I say that with all the sympathy or empathy or whatever in my heart. Don't get your hopes up because Giannis is going to be there to ruin your day. I promise you. Or KD. My number 3 team, I'm going to go with the Phoenix Suns. This may be higher than maybe when I said it was a bad pick for you to have them at number 1. This may be higher than people thought I would have had them at number 1, considering you had them at number 1. I said it was bad. I have them at number 3. I still think this is a really good team. They obviously got to the finals last year, albeit literally everybody in the West got hurt, and they had a free trip to the finals. Maybe that's a little bit of an overstatement, but they pretty much played an injured team at every point in the Western Conference playoffs. I like this team. I think Chris Paul's a leader, or he at least tries to be a leader. I think Devin Booker is he's top 5 players, at 25 or under that I'd be taking, young guys if you want to call it that. I think this is a really well-coached team. I think they almost kind of remind me of the Spurs. They just don't have Tim Duncan, and instead it's kind of Chris Paul is the Tim Duncan. I guess maybe not boring is the right word, but it's a team that works really well with ball movement. They have a lot of selfless players, a lot of role players that are kind of, plug and play almost. I think they're a well coached team, a lot of plug and play players, high motor players, selfless players. But again, I don't think they have the high end talent of a Warriors or of a Bucks, and those are my last two teams. I don't think it's hard to figure that out. So yeah, that's why I don't
Yeah.
have my number 2 or 1.
Yeah, so my number three team, I'm going with the Grizzlies. And again, if I was doing a championship list, my list would definitely look a lot different than the list that I'm giving out right now. But Grizzlies number three. I mean, we kind of talked about it and everything, but yeah, I mean, like they're just playing great basketball. And again, Ja's been injured. When he was out of the lineup, they were actually better than they were when he was in the lineup at that point of when it happened. But since then, ever since he came back from his like ankle injury, which could have been a lot worse than it really was, which is always the worry with him is that he is super athletic and super just freakish, but he has a huge chance of being injured way more than a lot of other players. So as long as he stays healthy, then yeah. But yeah, they're my number three team. They're good at home and on the road. Just for a playoff situation, question is, can the role players still play this good, and can Ja even take it up to another level if he has to go up against a Jokic, a Luka, or a Steph, a Devin Booker, Chris Paul type team?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that if the Grizzlies were to beat a Warriors, a Suns, a team like that, Ja would have to be the best player in that series. And as much as I love Ja, I don't trust him to be the best player in a series against the Warriors. I think he can be the best player in a series against the Suns, but I think he has to be more than just barely the best player. I think you'd have to be like a dominant player in that series for them to have a chance over the
Yeah.
Suns. Um, Anyways, my number 2 team, I'm gonna go with the Bucks. I think Giannis is the best player in the world right now. I think it's a title you probably earn in the postseason for the most part. I think he earned it last year, albeit, I mean, KD was a better player in that series, in my opinion. The other question marks off the field or off the court and just consistency, I have to give it to Giannis still. He obviously won the finals too, so that helps out a lot. Um, I think they're a really consistent team. I think it's good they kind of get a little bit complacent in the playoffs or in the regular season. I don't think it's good to go all out every time and treat every game like it's a game, game 3 or whatever of a postseason, series. Um, I still have question marks about Middleton. I still have question marks about the roster outside Giannis. And even Giannis, listen, I love Giannis, right? I still have some question marks. If Middleton isn't the closer, which I still am not sure he is a consistent closer. He had a hell of a run last season, but he was inconsistent last season. He still
Yep.
missed plenty of shots, and honestly, that's probably made the most consistent I've seen him. I think Middleton's a question mark. I think Giannis is going to have to maybe not be a better player this season than he was last season in the playoffs, but I think he'll have to be better as a closer. He may not still have to be the closer, but he has to be an outlet as he needs to be an option late in the game. It can't just be Middleton only. So that's kind of my question mark with the Bucks. And if I did trust Giannis as much as I trusted some other players that are close to as good as him overall in the first 3 quarters, in the fourth quarter, I would probably have the Bucks as 1, but they're my number 2.
Yeah, so I already said my number one team. I guess I'll talk to him a little bit later, but Warriors are my number two team. Yeah, I mean, they went through a little bit of a slump, honestly, the last past kind of like month or so, but recently they've been playing better. They still, Draymond's been out still, so again, he's going to come back. Wiseman's, going to make his return at some point. He's not going to have a huge impact, but it's another guy, it's another piece, it's another just like part of your team that you just didn't have before, like a big who can stretch the floor like that, so you can actually play him in certain lineups. And then obviously Steph, Jordan Poole, Clay, obviously. So even though they went through that somewhat of a slump, they've been better recently. So I mean, it's not hard to put them at number two. And then obviously you have them at number one.
Yeah, yep. I have the Warriors as number 1. They're my number 1 team. I picked Curry's MVP. I really like Curry. I really like this team. I think if fully healthy, they're a force to be reckoned with. I do think the 3-pointer. Listen, when you live and die by the 3, you live and die by the 3, and that means that if the Warriors do go on a finals run and Curry is the best player, you're gonna have to see them shoot better from the 3 than they historically do, and they're gonna have to be consistent too. Um, Even if the 3 is by the analytics a really, really good shot, it's also a lower floor, higher ceiling shot than, a good 2-point shot, which I think goes without saying. But, I should remind people of it because even if you shoot okay percentage from the threes, over the course of the playoffs, all it takes is one or two bad games in a series where you aren't making the three and you're down 3-2 going to going to Phoenix down 3-2 instead of, up 3-2 or whatever. So, but yeah, I have the Warriors as my number one team. I do think they're going to win the NBA Finals. And I do think we're going to eventually get to the point where we maybe have an argument between Magic Johnson and Steph Curry.
Yeah, maybe. You for sure have to win another one, if anything. But yeah, that's a conversation for later. But for my last pick, obviously number one team. I already said it, but the Suns again, they're 48-10. They've been 47-7 since their 1-3 start. Ayton's missed, I think, like 15 games or 20 games. Paul's been there, Booker's been there. They're obviously all stars this year. It's just, right now they're the best team. Now, do I think they can win the finals? Obviously, they have a chance for sure, but there'd be other teams I'd have ahead of them. But again, they just play a perfect brand of basketball, which is unselfish, passing all around. They play great defense. It's not like they don't play good defense. They're only giving up 105 points per game, and they average 114. So they can score if they need to, and they can defend when they have to. So they didn't make huge additions at the deadline. I know they got Torrey Craig. Maybe they got one other guy. Nothing huge, but again, just like rotational guys, defense guys, 3-and-D guys. They shoot a lot of threes as well. So I think they're just the most well-rounded team in the NBA. And again, they're 48-10. I mean, they're 47-7. That's on pace for a 70-win season. So that's the type of team that we technically are talking about, even if you really don't think it. I just said technically that's the team that we are talking about, even if you don't think it. So
I don't think they're on pace for a 70-win season. If they win out, they have 72 wins. If they win out.
I was saying when they were 47-7 pace.
Oh, okay.
If you take away that 1-3 start, I believe that does get them to 70 and is 47-7. That's about 7. It's just. I think you're 68 wins, 69 wins. So it's just about a 70-win pace.
So a couple things. One, technically, and I don't think this means anything as far as the Suns championship shot really, except for maybe the Warriors take the 1 seed. Paul might miss some time. He did have like a cast during the All-Star, this All-Star stuff. He may miss some time, not a lot of time, but he may miss some time, which again probably doesn't mean anything, but it could mean anything. It could mean something if the Warriors get hot and the Suns lose a couple games because of that. So, but yeah, I mean, I agree. I think this is a really solid team, but a couple things that scare me. It's Phoenix. We've seen Phoenix choke time and time again in the playoffs, whether it's a Chris Paul-led team or a Steve Nash-led team. Those are really the two Suns teams that I've grown up with, are those two teams. So we've seen the Suns choke, and we've seen Chris Paul choke. So, that's maybe why a small reason as to why I don't have the Suns as my number one team. Am I biased against Chris Paul? Probably. That's if you want to say that, I would not disagree. So, but I mean, maybe me saying the Suns are the number one team, maybe me saying that's a bad pick is a little bit of an overstatement. It probably is. I don't think it's a bad pick, but I still would have the Warriors above them, and then I'd probably have a team from the East, which would be the Bucks. So,
well, again, mine's just right now. So, from the start of the season to February 19th, that's the way I looked at my list. So again, I already clarified that if I was doing a championship list, yeah, it'd be different. The Suns would probably be, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, maybe, somewhere in that range, I would say. But
okay. Well, I'll give my updated. This is a good point to do this. We're at the All-Star break. Updated NBA final predictions. I'm gonna stick with this list. I'm going Warriors, Bucks. I'm going to say the Warriors end up having a home field or home court, if that really means anything. They definitely will, probably will, I should say. I'll go Warriors, Bucks. I'll go Warriors in 7. I think it comes down to, listen, I know Curry's had his postseason question marks, but I think it will come down to the Warriors ultimately having a better closer than the Bucks.
I'm not trying to copy exactly what you said, but I probably would go the same. I mean, I was ready going with the Bucks no matter what. Honestly, in the West, it was between the Warriors or Suns. But I think when fully healthy, both teams, if they were to meet in a 7 game series in the Western Conference Finals, which is what they would do being the 1-2 seed. And again, the Grizzlies could catch the Warriors, they're only a game behind, but assuming it's that, I like the Warriors better. I think that like Steph is the best player in the series. Clay's only going to be better at that time. Just a more experience, more games. They probably have the second best player in Booker, I would say. Paul could potentially be third best player, but again, Draymond will be fully healthy by then. You'll have Wiseman back. You'll have Poole still, bring off the bench. Wiggins. I mean, he's an all-star starter technically, so you have that. I think they're just a better team, and they've been there obviously for 7 years now in the playoffs. So more experience. I think the better team. I think you have the best player. And like you said, if Curry can win a championship this year, that would mean a lot for his legacy, even though he's already won three. But this would be his first where he's truly. I know the first one that they won, he was technically the best player, but this is when he's truly the best player on his team by far. But if it was Warriors Bucks, I'd go Bucks. To be honest, I still like the Bucks. But you'd go Warriors, I'd go Bucks.
And how many games?
Um, I mean, it's almost like a guarantee you're going to say 6 or 7. So I guess I'll go 6.
I said 7, by the way. I don't know
No,
if you
I
did.
know. I'm saying like it's
Okay.
almost
I
a
got,
guarantee
gotcha.
that like
Yeah. I see
it's
what
like
you're
what are
saying.
you going to pick a final series that's 5 games? It's just like it's not even fun to do that, even if it's actually true. So, um, I'll go
So,
6.
I believe to start the season you went Bucks Lakers, correct? And you went
Yep,
Bucks in 7, I want to say.
I'm pretty confident. Yeah,
And I went Nets Lakers. I want to say Nets in 7. Um, I can double check real quick. I do have it on my notes. I went Nets in 6, Nets Lakers. So, and you went Lakers Bucks, and I believe you had Bucks in 7.
yeah,
I guess looking back at our award predictions real quick, and we'll wrap it up. Well, I guess we technically have to talk about the skills stuff. We'll talk about that quickly too. We'll talk about this quickly as well. MVP Steph Curry probably not going to happen, but I guess you never know. Cade Cunningham Rookie of the Year probably not going to happen. Rudy Gobert Defensive Player of the Year. I'm not sure what the Defensive Player of the Year odds are looking like.
I think it's probably Gobert, Giannis, and Embiid.
I would assume Embiid wins it. I could be wrong. We'll see. Especially if Embiid does win MVP, I think that heightens his chance at Depoy, but we'll see. Um, I'm not exactly sure what the sixth man of the year odds are looking like. Um, so I couldn't really tell you. MIP, MPJ, probably, that's not going to work out. But Coach of the Year, Mike Budenholzer, not going to work out as well. So my awards pretty hit, pretty miss. I pretty much missed on a lot of them. I can tell you
Yeah,
yours as well, real quick.
yeah, I got mine in front of me. Mine are probably the same. I mean, Luka MVP, probably not. Jalen Green, Rookie of the Year, no. Giannis, again, we both have a chance with Defensive Player of the Year. Six man, Terrence Mann, no. Most Improved Player, Shea, it's not going to be him. Coach of the Year, Nate McMillan, won't be him. So, no. Maybe we'll get one.
So, I mean, who do you think? I have the slightly better NBA word predictions, but if we're grading them on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give mine a 3, and I'd probably give yours a 2.5. I think we missed the mark on these. I won't be the first. I'll be the first to say it. I think we missed the mark. But I think my MVP pick is probably looking slightly better, but that's pretty much it. I mean, and then maybe my Coach of the Year pick is just not as much of a flop as the Nate McMillan pick. But I liked the Nate McMillan pick. Obviously not working out, but I still have hope that the Hawks will turn out to be a formidable team come postseason time. So.
Yes, but moving on to All-Star stuff again, we'll just kind of make the picks. So first challenge that they have, it's skills challenge, but it's different. It's 3 teams of 3, so it's Jared Allen, Darius Garland, and Evan Mobley versus the Antetokounmpo brothers, so Giannis, Alex, and Theanis. And then rookies, Scotty Barnes, Cade Cunningham, and Josh Giddey. So it's passing. The first round is shooting. Second round is passing, and then the third round is a relay, where you have to throw an outlet pass, dribble down the court, make a shot, make a 3-pointer. It's kind of like the original skills challenge, but it's just into the last. It's a round now, and then the 2 teams with the most points from those 3 rounds move to the final round. which is a half court shot. It looks like. So I don't know if that's as you can make as many as possible. I would assume that's what it is. You make as many as possible in a certain amount of time, or you have a certain amount of time to make one. I don't know which one it is, but that's what it is. So which team do you think? Do you think it's going to be the home team technically, the Cavs, the brothers, or the rookies?
I'll go with the Antetokounmpo brothers. Two of the three have nothing better to do with their time than focus on this, so I think that helps them out. Uh,
Yeah.
really, I don't know. I mean, this is the stuff that I just can't be asked to really care about. I think nobody really cares about it, but yeah, I would go with the honest guys. I'll predict that the rookies don't win, even though I'll be rooting for the rookies. And Josh Giddey does that thing that he does, like that. I forget what it exactly says, but it's like give me a shot or something.
Yeah, he knows that the breathe
Like
breathe
that
thing.
TikTok
Yeah,
trend. Oh yeah, like
yeah.
yeah, whatever that is. That he does, but I'll predict that.
I'm going with the rookies. I think it's kind of suits exactly what all three of those rookies do. I mean, they're all ball handling, like passing first, and then they could both like all of them can shoot. Like I feel like it is perfectly set for those guys. So I'll go with the rookies.
Let's be
But
honest though. This is something nobody should ever bet on if you were to bet on it because you probably will get one or two guys that will actually give more than 30% effort on this thing. That's just my prediction.
yeah, I mean, I would assume that them changing the format is because they want to make it more competitive. So I mean, again, there's probably maybe one or two guys that may not, but I feel like they probably will try. I don't know. And there's obviously a money prize too, so I would assume they would try, but I don't know.
It's just like one of those things
Um,
like in some skills challenges we have seen like, you have to run the full distance of the court to do a layup or whatever at the very end. Sometimes we see players jog that. Like can we please like either get rid of stuff where you're running long distances so it at least looks like you care or just run. Like it's a
yeah,
it's a one distance of an NBA court. Like you're not going to injure yourself going, 80% speed rather than 30%. Like come on, let's at least make it look okay. I'd like to see that, but I think hopefully we see it. I think the rookies should try. Two of the three honest brothers will try, and the Cavs, well, we'll see.
yeah, but that's the first event. Then we have the second event, 3-point shootout. It's the contestants are Desmond Bain, Luke Kennard, Zach Levine, which I don't think he's not doing it. I don't know who's replacing him, but someone should be replacing him. Uh, CJ McCollum, Patty Mills, Cat, Fred Van Fleet, and then Trey Young. So those are the people in the competition. Again, Levine shouldn't be doing it. He's like been out with a knee injury, so he shouldn't be doing
It
it.
looks like he's going to do it.
He is. That's surprising to me, only because he went to go see a
The team's
specialist
been
for his
without
knee, so
Zach
I'm
LaVine.
surprised they're letting him do that. But all right, if he's doing it, then I guess out of those eight guys, who do you think is going to win?
Well, I just clicked on this article, and of course, it plays a video right at the start. But let's see. Yeah, I believe he's. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it says right here an article from 3 hours ago. He's going to participate in his third consecutive 3-point contest during All Star Saturday. Yeah. So I'm gonna go Trey Young. I don't know. I mean, it could be any of these guys. I don't know who the odds-on favorites are, but I'll go Trey Young. I mean, he's a guy that is known for his ability to shoot beyond the arc. Um, Again, this contest is about. I think it is a lot about not being shook from the fact that you're grabbing a ball from a rack rather than either creating your own shot and shooting like you would in an NBA or practice setting, or it's not a catch and shoot either. You're not catching and shooting. You're taking a ball from a rack and setting and shooting. I think it is slightly different. And when contestants have been interviewed about it, that's the one thing that is different from just regular practice and something that is a little bit harder to simulate. And realistically, these guys aren't practicing, every night shooting with the rack. It's typically catch and shoot or, you know, dribble move into a shot or whatever. So, but I know Young isn't known for his, shooting right on the arc, but rather probably further back from the arc. But I'll go with Young.
Yeah, I think this actually has a pretty good field in my opinion. I'm gonna go with Luke Kennard though. I don't know. He's from Ohio. He's been talking a lot about how important this is. So I think he's actually he's obviously they're all gonna try, but I think this actually means something for him. So I'm gonna go with him. But if I had to choose a second, I would go with Cat. I mean, Cat is one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. It's not even a question. I think he's like 42% or like 40%. Um, but I'm going to go with Kennard. But I think it's actually going to be pretty good. There's not like a clear favorite. It's not like there's a Steph or a Clay. Even though Trey Young's in it, like I think he did it last year, but it's not like he's a favorite, honestly. But yeah, I think it could go on honestly anyway. But last one, probably the most exciting one. I mean, I always think it's still the most exciting one, no matter how boring it can be sometimes. The slam dunk contest. The four people in it is Jalen Green, Obi Toppin, Cole Anthony, and then Juan Toscano Anderson of the Warriors. Um, I personally, I'm gonna go with Jalen Green for this. I feel like this is perfect for him. I mean, he has crazy bounce anyways. He's kind of a me guy, to be honest, so I think he kind of, does look at this and kind of think like this is pretty important to be you're on a national spotlight. You can do whatever you want with the dunk contest. He's for sure been in dunk contests before too. He is the favorite, odds on favorite, but I think this just perfectly suits exactly his style and exactly what he's trying to go for.
Hmm. I'm gonna go with Jalen Green as well. I don't want to, but I will. I can sense a little bit of Jalen Green bias going on the other side of the Zoom here. We got Rookie of the Year Jalen Green, dunk contest winner Jalen Green, but I would agree with you. I mean, I think you're right. I think Jalen Green is. I don't know about the me thing. We'll see. We'll find out as time goes on. But I would agree with. He's got insane hops. I think this challenge is kind of meant for him. Athletically, I trust him over Toppin. I trust him over Scano from the Warriors. Who was the last guy? I forget exactly.
Cole Anthony.
I definitely trust him over Cole Anthony. And I think he has the right like body type to where I think it allows for the most creativity. I think the bigger you are, I think sometimes the dunks can fit you, but I think it's actually harder to pull off like really creative and really good looking dunks as a bigger guy compared to like that guard / 6'7" forward type of body. I think being like Cole Anthony's height is. Listen, I think that's very tough as well. So I'll give it to Jalen Green. He's young, right? And I think the younger you are in these challenges, I think being 20 is completely fine. I don't think like 25 is better than 20 like it is, in the actual 5-on-5 sport. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say, like, I think Obi's almost too big, and then Cole Anthony's too small. I think Jalen Green's 6'5". I think he's a perfect height for it. But I mean, we'll see. It's all about the tricks. That's the only problem. It's all about the tricks and the props. So it's I mean, unless you're Zach LaVine, you just do like free throw behind the back kind of dunks. Like it's all about the props and that kind of stuff. So that's where you could kind of get skewed. But those are our picks. It's
and
about
quickly.
Yeah.
I will say. I am rooting for Green because if Obi Toppin does win, that means we got a boring dunk contest. That's all I'll say. I'll let you go.
Okay.
In my opinion, that's how I feel.
I think if Toscano Anderson wins, it's probably boring. Just because I mean, like, sorry, but who really cares about Juan Toscano Anderson? So.
Sure. No, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think there's at least a chance he has something flashy. We saw Toppin, and I don't think he's going to have anything crazy to pull out. Like I don't think we're going to see some all-time dunk coming from him. I'm not saying we'd see anything from Juan Toscano Anderson like all-time crazy, but there's a 1% chance. You never know.
Yeah. But that's about a start from when we're recording this. Obviously it won't be up by the time that comes out, but we'll see if we're right, I guess. We'll be watching it and everything, but yeah, that's all I have for this episode. I don't know if you have anything else.
No, that's it. Appreciate everybody for sticking through it. If you do want to see the full power rankings for both me and Brandon, they are and will be in the description. So you can check that out. Obviously, everything else in the description, feel free to click on as well. Feel free to drop a like, comment, all that stuff. If you are watching all the way till the end of the video, feel free to give your finals. Feel free to give your finals matchup. And who you think is going to win and how many games. We'll see if people agree with us or not. But we'll be back within the next couple of days. Probably some more NBA. Maybe there'll be some MLB news. Probably not. We'll find out. Football stuff, of course. So goodbye.